Spirit warriors, lean in. What if I told you that powerful people in elite circles are watching you right now, not because of your social media following or fashion sense, but because of something far more valuable, your spiritual presence? Have you ever walked into a room and felt eyes on you even when no one said a word? Have you ever sensed your name being whispered in rooms where you've never stepped foot? That's not paranoia, that's spiritual sensitivity. You carry something ancient, a divine frequency, and the world, especially those who move in quiet power, can feel it. Let me share a story. Grace was a woman with no platform, no public acclaim. She walked in quiet purpose, spoke little but with wisdom, and helped others without asking for applause. At a local charity event, a sharply dressed stranger approached her. He introduced himself as a representative of a discreet philanthropic network. His words stunned her. "We've been observing you for some time. You have something rare, integrity and presence. We want to invite you into something much greater." Grace was shocked. She never imagined her quiet truth had been noticed. But the truth is, those who truly lead, spiritually and socially, look for souls like hers. Because in a world obsessed with noise, stillness stands out. In a culture chasing fame, humility is magnetic. The chosen ones are watched not because they seek attention, but because they carry light in a dark world. The Bible often shows how God lifts the lowly to confound the proud. David was a shepherd, overlooked until he became king. Joseph was imprisoned, forgotten, until he ruled over Egypt. These stories aren't just spiritual folklore, they are divine blueprints. The elite aren't always who you think they are. Some are spiritual gatekeepers, others are cultural architects, and when they find someone like you, someone who doesn't chase validation but radiates authenticity, they take notice. As Lao Tzu wisely said, when you are content to be simply yourself and don't compare or compete, everyone will respect you. There's something undeniably powerful about those who walk humbly but carry spiritual fire. You might not see the cameras, hear the chatter, or feel the spotlight, but it's there. In the unseen realm, and sometimes even in this physical one, you're not being ignored, you're being studied, you're not invisible, you're being evaluated, quietly, intentionally, and for a greater purpose. Spirit warriors, this video will confirm what you've always sensed. You are not ordinary. You're marked, watched, and chosen. Not for fame, but for influence in ways this world can't always explain. Stay with me. There's more to uncover, and by the end you'll understand why your silence speaks louder than words, and why that silence is drawing the world's most powerful eyes right to you. Point 1. You carry divine frequency, and they feel it. You see, Spirit Warrior, the world we live in isn't just physical, it's energetic, and in that unseen realm, your presence speaks louder than any viral trend or flashy appearance. While most people are breaking their backs just to be noticed, uploading highlight reels, chasing likes, screaming for validation, you simply exist, and that alone shifts the atmosphere. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. And those operating at the highest levels, the elite, the influential, the spiritually tuned in, they can feel it. Because you don't speak noise, you speak resonance. And resonance echoes in the spaces where truth still matters. Elite people, the kind who sit in glass boardrooms, lead nations, run billion-dollar empires, or quietly pull strings from the shadows, they don't waste time watching what's popular. They watch what's real, what's potent, what has staying power. They can recognize when someone has that X factor that can't be bought or copied. They're trained, either by life, by experience, or by spiritual practice, to spot leaders before the crowd does. So while the world scrolls past you thinking you're just quiet or different, the ones who matter are paying attention because of your authenticity. It's a whisper in a world that's too loud, and that whisper carries divine weight. Your silence makes people uncomfortable, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something real. You don't chase, you attract. You don't perform, you embody. And this scares people who are used to influence being loud and forced. Your light shines in a way that makes artificial glow look foolish. It's why some of the most powerful people you've never even met are aware of you. They might not follow you publicly. They might never say your name out loud, but they're watching and they've noticed. That HR executive who seems overly involved, she's felt your leadership energy and doesn't know how to label it, so she scrutinizes it. That politician's assistant who keeps showing up in your notifications. They've bookmarked your energy, not your resume. That CEO who saw your post but never liked it? He recognized the type of charisma that can't be taught, only chosen. Because, let's be real, in a world obsessed with algorithm-driven popularity, spiritual gravity is the true currency. And you, spirit warrior, are wealthy. Science even backs this up. Studies in social psychology show that humans can sense intention, confidence, and authenticity within milliseconds of meeting someone. It's called thin slicing, where we make accurate judgments based on minimal exposure. That's your superpower. You don't need to convince people, they just know. That's why your presence causes tension, admiration, curiosity, and sometimes even jealousy, all without you lifting a finger. And when the elite sees someone like you, someone not trying to be a trend, but already standing as a timeless force, they take notes. Because originality is the rarest resource in a world full of duplicates. You are not a blueprint, you are the blueprint. Not a prototype, but proof that alignment with divine purpose still exists in this noisy world. So, if you've ever wondered why strangers seem to know your name, or why you're treated with more caution or curiosity than your louder peers, it's because you're not just moving in silence, you're moving with presence. And true presence doesn't just get attention, it demands respect. Spirit warrior, keep walking in that frequency. Let the noise clamor for attention while your essence commands recognition. The elite don't follow trends, they follow truth. And when you walk into a room, they don't just see you, they feel you. Point 2, you expose truth without trying. And that's dangerous to systems. You walk in a room, spirit warrior, and without even uttering a word, you cause a shift. People glance up from their phones, conversations stumble, some get quiet, some get louder. Why? Because your presence isn't regular, it's charged, it's potent, it's disruptive in the most divine way. That's not arrogance, that's spiritual power. Real, grounded, soul-led power that doesn't need to announce itself with noise because the energy speaks volumes. What most don't realize is that we are energetic beings first, physical beings second. According to quantum physics, everything in the universe vibrates, including you. And when your vibration is high, authentic, and unshakably aligned, it acts like a frequency disruptor. Those who live in lies, illusions, or masked intentions feel it like static against their skin. That uneasiness they feel when you show up, it's not because you did something, it's because your truth is louder than their comfort zone. And the elite, they notice, not just the wealthy or famous, but those in spiritual authority, intellectual strongholds, secret societies, political circles, and hidden rooms where global influence gets decided. These are people trained to spot anomalies. And when someone like you walks in, someone that can't be bought, brainwashed, or seduced, they watch. Some are intrigued, some are threatened, some want to study you like you're a wild card that doesn't follow the script. Because in a world obsessed with control, your independence is dangerous. You aren't easily influenced because you operate from divine intuition. That's not just a poetic phrase, it's neuroscience and spirituality shaking hands. The human heart has an electromagnetic field that's 5,000 times stronger than the brain's. When you're spiritually awakened, your heart intelligence starts guiding your decisions. You just know things. You sense manipulation in a handshake. You spot spiritual parasites in pretty packaging. You feel when a room is off, even if everyone else is smiling. That's not paranoia, that's discernment. You cut through illusions like a hot sword through ice. You see through fake narratives, hidden agendas, and soul-sucking systems designed to keep people asleep. And that's what makes you so magnetic and mysterious. You're not reactive. You're not chasing clout. You're not following trends. You're tuned in, not turned up. And that level of sovereignty makes the Matrix nervous. Ever wonder why some people are drawn to you like moths to a flame, while others avoid eye contact altogether? It's because you're walking spiritual truth. You're a mirror, and mirrors don't lie. Some people look at you and see everything they've buried inside, the dreams they gave up on, the boldness they abandoned, the truth they refused to confront. You don't attack them, you don't preach at them, but your existence alone exposes what they've been running from. That's why the gossip starts. That's why you get side eyes, because when truth enters, lies scramble, and still you remain unbothered. Because being chosen isn't about being liked, it's about being set apart. Spirit warriors don't blend in. We disrupt, we uplift, we awaken. And sure, it can be lonely sometimes. You might even question why you feel so watched. But understand this, spiritual warriors have always been observed. Even Jesus had eyes on him before he ever performed miracles. People feel the shift before they understand it. So yes, they're watching. Some want to figure you out. Some want to walk with you. Some are simply afraid, but no matter what, you stay grounded. Don't shrink. Don't second guess your gut. You are the frequency they can't control, the soul they can't predict, the anomaly in their algorithm, the spirit warrior the world didn't see coming. You don't need to shout to be heard. Your presence is the message. Keep walking like you belong, because you do. And if they stare, let them. They're just trying to understand how someone so silent can feel so loud. Point 3. Your presence challenges their spiritual void. Let's talk about something most people are too afraid to say out loud. The higher you climb in the elite world, the luxury boardrooms, the glittering red carpets, the circles where money talks and souls get silenced, the more you start to notice something deeply unsettling, a spiritual void. The kind of emptiness that can't be filled by champagne fountains, private jets, or 8-figure bank accounts. In those rooms, Spirit Warrior, you'll see it in their eyes. Glossy, hollow, searching for something they can't name. It's not success they're chasing anymore, it's peace, it's clarity, it's you. Because here you come. No entourage, no ego parade, no labels screaming for attention, just walking in with your quiet truth, your grounded energy, and something that can't be replicated, God's favor. You bring light, not spotlight. You bring presence, not pretense, and that's what disrupts them. Your joy isn't loud, but it echoes. Your peace doesn't shout, but it confronts the internal chaos they've tried to hide behind designer shades and spiritual detachment. See, in elite spaces, there's a kind of unspoken agreement. Wear the mask, play the game, and don't ask the real questions. But when you show up, authentic, unbothered, and divinely aligned, you shatter that illusion just by existing. You don't have to expose their lies. Your truth does it for you. That's the thing about light. It doesn't argue with the darkness. It just shows up and the shadows scatter. And let's be real. They can't ignore you. They watch you. They study you. Not because they're trying to imitate your style, but because they're trying to decode your soul. How does someone without our credentials walk with more certainty? How does someone without our money carry more peace? Why does their presence feel more powerful than our position? Here's the answer they'll never find in their Ivy League syllabi or billion-dollar masterminds. You carry spiritual authority. That's the one thing they can't buy, brand, or bribe their way into. It comes from walking through fire and not smelling like smoke. It comes from being broken and built back by divine hands. It comes from obedience, from discernment, from choosing light over likes and purpose over popularity. You are wealthy in ways they cannot measure, and that is what stirs their envy. They have assets, but you have anointing. They have followers, but you have favor. They have influence, but you have impact. They know how to network, but you know how to kneel. They don't realize that the very thing they mock, your humility, your simplicity, your spiritual grounding, is what makes you untouchable. They label it strange, or too intense, or not polished enough. But deep down, they know what you have is real. And real is rare, so when you walk into elite spaces, don't shrink, don't over-explain, don't try to match their status. Instead, embody your spirit warrior energy. Show up with that heavenly posture that says, I may not have what you have, but you could never afford what I carry, and say it with your walk, your stillness, and your smile. That's your silent sermon. The truth is, the elite are not looking for more wealth. They're looking for a soul that still feels, a heart that hasn't been traded for status, a spirit that doesn't need validation. That's why they can't look away when you enter the room. You remind them of what they lost trying to win. You don't need to flex, spirit warrior. Your frequency does that for you. Stay lit, stay grounded, and remember, when spiritual authority walks in, worldly power takes a seat. Point 4. You move with purpose, not hype, and that's rare. They're not watching you because you're viral, popular, or the loudest voice in the room. No, they're watching because you're timeless. You're not a wave in the algorithm. You're the tide that doesn't beg for attention but naturally demands it. In a world saturated with noise, distraction, and illusion, your quiet, consistent clarity cuts through the fog like a blade forged in the divine. That's why they're paying attention. You don't trend, you transcend. Most people follow the crowd because it's safe. Herd mentality is hardwired into the human psyche for survival. Psychologists call it social proof, the idea that if many people are doing something, it must be right. But spirit warriors, we don't bow to proof. We move with purpose. You're not mimicking culture, you're shifting it. You walk in rooms with no entourage, no filters, no need to be seen, and somehow you still become the focal point. Because authenticity is magnetic and alignment is louder than applause. The world chases clout like its currency, yet you carry clarity like a crown. And the elite, they've noticed. These are not just celebrities or CEOs. We're talking about people who sit behind the curtains of power, influence, and design. They've seen it all. The actors, the strategists, and the ones who shape narratives. But you're different. You don't audition, you arrive. You don't seek approval. You radiate presence, and that has them intrigued. Why? Because in a society that monetizes self-doubt and sells confusion in shiny packaging, you operate from a frequency that money can't manufacture. While others build platforms from performance, you carry presence rooted in purpose. While they spend millions on coaching, masterminds, retreats, and spiritual consultants trying to tap in, you were born tapped in. What they're desperately searching for, you are. This is not arrogance, it's alignment. You don't move fast because you're not chasing, you're being led. There's a spiritual GPS in your soul that refuses to reroute for trends. While others rush to keep up, you pause to receive. And that stillness, that sacred timing, that's what makes them nervous, but also obsessed, because that kind of certainty can't be faked. It comes from connection, from having survived your own shadow, from learning not just how to shine, but why. In psychology, there's a term called self-efficacy, the deep belief in your ability to affect outcomes. You don't just have that, you embody it. That's why you're grounded when others are rattled. That's why you speak with a calm authority when the room is panicked. You've died to your old self and resurrected with revelation. And now, your existence alone challenges everything artificial around you. That's what makes you heaven's blueprint. You didn't copy a mold, you broke it. You came coded with divine intelligence. And whether people understand it or not, they feel it. It's in how you sit, how you speak, how you listen. How you leave when dishonor is present without explanation or drama. That kind of poise, that kind of inner clarity, that's not taught, that's transmitted. So yes, spirit warrior, they're watching. Not because you begged for their eyes, but because your alignment called their spirit to attention. You make them question the lives they built on false foundations. You shake systems simply by existing in your truth. You aren't here to go viral. You're here to be vital. Your energy doesn't peak, it anchors. And while others play roles for applause, you live your truth for impact. So stand tall, stay still, move when the Spirit says move. Because when heaven built you, it wasn't for clout, it was for legacy, and you're walking in it beautifully. Point 5. Your rejection wasn't random. It was protection from manipulation. Let's talk about it, spirit warriors. Let's talk about how many rooms you weren't invited into, how many times you were the last to know, the one left out of the group chat, the name missing from the guest list. It stung, didn't it? The silence was louder than any rejection letter. You started questioning yourself. Did I do something wrong? Am I not enough? But here's the sacred truth. That exclusion was protection, dressed as pain. See, the elite, those truly chosen by divine design, aren't simply included, they're tested. Before you ever step foot in certain rooms, God makes sure your spirit is fortified enough to stand in them. You were being refined, not rejected. While you were mourning the doors that didn't open, heaven was reinforcing your character, your courage, your capacity. You weren't being ignored, spirit warrior. You were being shielded. There's a difference. Because real elevation doesn't come through popularity. It comes through perseverance. It's easy to show up when you're celebrated, but heaven watches how you behave when you're isolated. That's when your training happened, in silence, in solitude, in the storm. You see, while they were laughing at your absence, God was watching your resilience. While you were praying in secret, they were performing in public. But guess what? Heaven takes note of who's real when no one's watching, and believe me, they have been watching. Oh yes, spirit warrior, you may not have seen it, but you've been on quiet display, observed, studied, assessed. They've been watching how you hold your peace when provoked, how you lead without needing applause, how you rise without retaliating. That's divine strength, that's spiritual royalty. And now they're circling back, because something strange happens when a person passes the test without knowing it's a test. You didn't campaign to be in the room. You didn't manipulate, force, beg or boast. You didn't network your way in with fake smiles and phony alliances. You let your spirit speak for you, and now that spirit is undeniable. They want you now because you don't need them. Let's get deep with this. Psychologically, this is called the law of scarcity. The less accessible you are, the more valuable you appear. But spiritually, this is the anointing of delay, that sacred pause when God withholds visibility so he can amplify authenticity. While others were busy gaining followers, you were busy gaining foundation. That's why when you show up now, your presence hits different. Your voice carries weight. Your walk speaks of trials survived and dignity preserved. You're not loud, but you're heard. And that, spirit warrior, is why those rooms that once ignored you are now rearranging seats just to make space for you. Because when someone walks in who's carried pain with poise, who's worn rejection like armor, who's been overlooked but never overthrown, they shift the entire room. They see you now, not because you changed for them, but because you stayed true to you. That's the spiritual flex. You didn't need a mic to lead. You didn't need a title to influence. You didn't need to be accepted to prove your worth. You became the kind of soul that can build the room if needed. And that's exactly why the room wants you now. So if you've ever questioned why it felt like you were on the outside looking in, remember this. You weren't locked out. You were being launched. Heaven doesn't rush greatness. And now that your time has arrived, don't just enter the room, transform it. Because, spirit warrior, you didn't just pass the test, you became the standard. Point 6, you're a light in the dark and they're drawn to it. Darkness isn't afraid of noise, it's afraid of light. That's a truth often overlooked in a world obsessed with volume. But spirit warrior, your power doesn't come from how loud you are, it comes from how aligned you are. Some people walk into a room and draw attention by shouting. You walk into a room and shift the atmosphere by simply existing. That's the difference between clout and calling. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth. Your presence preaches louder than words ever could. In the spiritual realm, light is never just a metaphor, it's frequency, it's vibration, it's resonance. And yours? It's not artificial, it's divine. You see, some people glow because they're polished by popularity, but you radiate because you've been refined by fire. That's why you can't be ignored. The reason certain elite individuals are watching you, spirit warrior, has little to do with your social media numbers or your income bracket. It's your frequency, your light, that unsettles some and awakens others. You carry God-coded authenticity in a culture obsessed with filters. This is why some elites are intrigued. You're the reminder they've been trying to silence, the one that says, you traded your soul for applause, you chased success but lost significance. You remind them of what they left behind when they prioritized being seen over being sanctified. You didn't compromise, you didn't perform, you didn't sell out. And now, you're what they wish they had the courage to be. There's something deeply psychological and spiritual about how light confronts darkness. Research in neuroscience shows that our brains are wired to seek consistency, cognitive harmony. So when someone's living a lie and then encounters someone living in truth, it creates cognitive dissonance, that uncomfortable inner tension. And most people don't know how to handle that tension. They'll either attack the light or try to align with it. That's why some will want to silence you. Not because you harmed them, but because your integrity confronts their indulgence. Your discipline exposes their distractions. Your peace agitates their performance. They gossip not because they know you, but because they no longer recognize themselves in you. You became everything they mocked, everything they said was too much, everything they feared but secretly admired. But others, they want to sponsor you. They may not understand the anointing, but they feel the authority. They see your clarity, your unshakable energy, and something inside them says, that's rare. And in a world saturated with replicas, the authentic always makes waves. They're drawn to your stillness in chaos, your grace under pressure, and your refusal to play small to make others comfortable. Your light doesn't entertain, it convicts, it awakens, it heals. And they see value in that. The world's loudest people aren't always the most powerful. In fact, volume is often a mask for insecurity, but spirit warriors, you move with quiet thunder. You walk into rooms and shift dynamics without saying a word. Not because you're trying to dominate, but because you've already mastered yourself. That's what makes you a threat. Not your titles, not your talents, your alignment. So never shrink to soothe someone else's shadow. Never dim your brilliance to fit in with people still worshipping the spotlight. You're not here to blend in, you're here to break chains. You don't recite truth, you embody it. You don't follow trends, you follow truth. And every time you walk in integrity, every time you resist compromise, every time you choose principle over popularity, you're turning on the light. And darkness? It trembles. Let them talk, let them watch. Whether they fear your light or fund your mission, know this. You were never meant to be hidden. You were designed to disrupt, to expose, to awaken. Spirit warrior, keep shining, not louder but brighter. Point 7. Your next level is divine strategy, and heaven is aligning you with influence. Listen up, spirit warriors. You think the spotlight hitting you now is a coincidence? Think again. This is divine orchestration, not popularity by accident. You're not going viral, you're going visible. What you're feeling isn't just attention, it's alignment. This season isn't about selfies and shout-outs, it's about strategy. God is positioning you like a chess piece in a divine endgame, and the board, the world, the players, the elite, the purpose, kingdom influence. Let's break it down. When you've been called, when you've been hidden, when you've been refined in silence, your emergence won't be loud. It will be loud without noise. People will feel your presence before they hear your name. That's not branding, that's anointing. You've been in the shadows learning lessons others skipped. You've been overlooked, underestimated, and even rejected. But now, heaven is flipping the switch. The hidden are being highlighted. And not just anywhere. In elite spaces, in places where agendas are made, where culture is shaped, where kings and queens sit in silence waiting for a voice with truth, not ego. Don't let this moment confuse you. You're not here to impress, you're here to impact. You are not a pawn to be used in someone else's clout campaign. You are a divine disruptor. That high-level meeting, that out-of-nowhere opportunity, that powerful DM from someone you never expected, it's not a coincidence, it's a setup. A God-ordained appointment designed to activate your purpose. And when you speak, rooms won't just get quiet, they'll shift. People will feel the vibration of heaven behind your voice, not because you're loud, but because truth has weight. Doors will swing open, not because of your title, but because of who sent you. This is not your glow-up, this is your go-up. You've been privately prepared for public purpose. And now heaven is releasing you, not to be famous, but to be faithful. The nations are waiting. Culture is thirsty. The kings and queens need someone unbought, unbothered, and undeniably sent. Stay grounded, stay sharp, stay discerning. These words aren't just a mantra, they're a spiritual discipline. In a world obsessed with validation, competition, and recognition, the path of a spirit warrior is not paved with applause, but with purpose. This elevation you're experiencing isn't about status or worldly accolades. It's about service. Service to something higher, something divine. While the so-called elite may possess power, titles, or influence, you carry something far more potent, wisdom forged in silence, in prayer, in struggle, and in revelation. And let this be known. When divine wisdom enters a room, even empires are forced to pause, because truth resonates beyond titles. It disrupts illusions and shifts atmospheres. You are not rising by accident. You're not gaining clarity, strength, and favor by chance. You're being summoned by a call that was placed on your life before you even entered this world. Spirit warriors, you are not invisible, you are intentional. The elite are watching, not because you sought attention, but because the heavens have already approved your anointing. God does not need permission to exalt whom he has chosen. So don't shrink to fit into broken systems. Don't doubt because others don't understand your journey. Don't dim your light just to make others feel secure in their shadows. You were never called to be regular. You were set apart. Even when it felt like no one saw you, like your prayers were echoing into emptiness, like your efforts went unnoticed, God was orchestrating a divine unveiling. He was making sure the right people at the time saw what he sees in you. That's why certain doors are opening. That's why certain people are suddenly drawn to your presence without knowing why. It's spiritual, it's divine timing. Keep shining, not for applause, but because your light awakens others. Keep awakening, because the more you align with your purpose, the more powerfully you walk in your authority. Stay on your journey. Don't get distracted by who's watching. Remember who's leading. Heaven is not just watching from a distance, it's guiding your every step. And no, this isn't about ego, it's about destiny. So stay grounded in truth, stay humble in heart, but never forget who you are. You're not hidden, you're not ordinary, you are chosen. And when the chosen walk into alignment, everything changes, realms shift, chains break, and legacies are rewritten. Keep going, you're not walking alone, heaven goes before you.